Some cars bleed value so fast, it's like tossing your money out the window at 70 miles per hour. In just 3 years, some lose over 70% of their price, turning a $50,000 ride into a $15,000 regret. And if your car's on this list, that shiny new ride might just be a $30,000 mistake, one of the worst offenders draining wallets and crushing dreams. Number 13, Mitsubishi Mirage, 54% sales crash and worthless resale. This car is proof that cheapest doesn't always mean best value. Sales have been tanked by 54% in the last year, and it's not hard to see why once you look past the sticker price. Mirage's main selling point has always been affordability. It's one of the lowest priced new cars in America, but that bargain tag hides a long list of compromises. Under the hood sits a 78 horsepower engine. You read that right, which means merging onto the highway feels like acceleration and more like a polite request for speed. And while you might assume such a tiny car sips fuel like a miser, its economy is underwhelming for its size, especially compared to better engineered rivals. Then there's safety, or the lack of it. The Mirage's crash test ratings are simply not competitive. In a world where subcompacts like Honda Fit and Toyota Yaris manage to combine small size with strong safety scores, the Mirage lags far behind, leaving buyers with the uneasy feeling that they're trading peace of mind for a few $1,000s in savings. These cars often sell below MSRP straight from the dealer, which means they start losing value before they've even driven them off the lot. On the used market, they command minimal resale value, making them a financial dead end for anyone hoping to recoup part of their investment. The Mirage's biggest competitor isn't another car, it's a good used car. For the same money, you could pick up a pre-owned Honda Fit, Toyota Yaris, or Kia Rio. All of them offer stronger engines, better safety, more comfort, and far better long-term reliability. The Mirage isn't entirely without merit. It's cheap, easy to park, and comes with a decent warranty. But those positives don't outweigh its glaring flaws. But if you think a car this cheap is bad, wait until you see the next one. It pretends to be new, but under the surface, it's just the same old problems in disguise. Number 12, Chevrolet Trax, 37% sales crash and 45% value drop disaster. This one is proof that you can slap on new sheet metal, call it redesign, and still leave the same old problems lurking underneath. Sales are down 37% year over year, which is basically the car buying public saying, "Nah, we remember how this went last time." Let's talk about power or lack of it. The 1.2-liter turbo feels more like a suggestion than an engine. Step on the gas to merge and it pauses, like it's deciding whether to help you or not. And if you're really unlucky, the transmission might quit long before the odometer hits big numbers. Owners have reported early failures, which is not the kind of surprise anyone wants. Inside, Chevy calls it modern styling. Translation, still cramped. Rear seats will have anyone over 5'8" plotting revenge, and the cargo space is weakened bag small. Sure, it works for city errands, but a long road trip, forget it. Safety should be the Trax's redemption arc, but nope. Poor scores in small overlap crash tests and headlights that barely scrape by means you're getting less than stellar protection and visibility. Not exactly comforting in a daily driver. Losing around 45% of value in 3 years hurts, especially when you start from a budget SUV price point and reliability isn't your strong suit. Meanwhile, rivals like the Honda HR-V and Kia Seltos are quietly eating its lunch. More space, better safety scores, and solid engineering, all for about the same amount of money. But if you thought the Trax was a miss, the next one proves that even Toyota can build a crossover nobody actually wants. Number 11, Toyota CHR, style over substance, and 69% sales collapse. The crossover that seems to exist because someone in a design meeting said, "Hey, that looks cool," and no one followed up with, "But what's it for?" Since 2019, sales have tanked 69%, and the reasons are obvious. The CHR is a crossover in name only. No all-wheel drive, ground clearance that's laughable for anything shaped like an SUV. Cargo space is barely better than a hatchback. It's basically a tall car wearing a crossover costume. The headaches start before you even leave your driveway. Rear visibility, terrible. thanks to a raked roofline and chunky rear pillars. The back seat feels like a cave, dark, cramped, and short on both legroom and headroom. Family shopping for a practical daily driver won't make it past the first test sit. Performance isn't here to save the day either. The 144 horsepower engine crawls from 0 to 60 in about 11 seconds. That's fine if your route is nothing but school zones, but on a busy highway, it's more than just annoying, it's a safety concern. The CHR's biggest flaw? It bets everything on style over substance. Yes, the edgy, aggressive design turns heads, but once the cool factor wears off, you're left with a car less practical than a Corolla, and less capable than even the smallest AWD crossovers. Toyota already sells better options. The Corolla Cross gives you the same bulletproof reliability but with more space, better visibility, and all-wheel drive. Step up to a RAV4 or even a Mazda CX-30, and you'll crush the CHR on both performance and practicality. The CHR isn't just a bad buy. It's an answer to a question nobody asked. And believe it or not, Toyota wasn't the only brand to miss the bullseye. The next SUV feels like it's been frozen in time. Number 10. Nissan Murano. Outdated design and 55% value freefall. The SUV equivalent of that guy who peaked in 2015 and hasn't updated his wardrobe since. Once it was considered stylish and modern. Now it's a $40,000 exercise in blending into the background. Sales are down a staggering 42% year over year. And honestly, that's not shocking. This current generation has been around since 2015 and it shows. The design hasn't aged gracefully. It's not bad, it's just there. The kind of vehicle you forget you parked until you see it again. Inside, the tech feels like a time capsule, and there's nothing here to make it stand out in a segment where fresh features are everywhere. Depreciation isn't doing it any favors either. In just 3 years, the Murano loses about 55% of its value. That's roughly $22,000 gone. And when you add in the cost of ownership, things get even less appealing. Nissan CVT transmissions have a reputation, and not the good kind. Failures are expensive, and when they happen out of warranty, it's a serious wallet buster. The sad part is, for the same money, you could be driving something like a Mazda CX-5 with sharp handling and an upscale interior, or a Toyota Venza with hybrid efficiency and a smoother ride, or even a Hyundai Santa Fe, which packs in tech, warranty coverage, and comfort for less. The Murano isn't terrible. It's comfortable, the seats are great, and it's fine for highway cruising. But fine doesn't cut it when you're asking for luxury-light pricing in a market full of options that are newer, safer, and more exciting. The Murano might feel stuck in the past, but coming up as a car that proves redesign doesn't always mean redemption. Number 9. Cadillac XT4. Fake luxury and 57% depreciation trap. A small SUV that tries to wear luxury like a designer jacket, except it's made from the same fabric as the budget line. Underneath the badge, the XT4 shares its bones with much cheaper GM models, and once you get inside, it doesn't take long to notice. The interior looks fine at first glance, but touch anything and that illusion starts to fade. Hard plastics, basic switchgear, and trim that feels more rental car than luxury lounge. It's not just the feel that's off, the numbers tell their own story. Sales are down 38% compared to the last year. That's not a small dip, that's a slide. The depreciation? Rough. In 3 years, this SUV loses about 57% of its value, or around $25,000. Imagine buying a shiny new Cadillac and 3 years later it's worth less than half, and you're still paying for repairs. And those repairs aren't small. Electrical issues and infotainment glitches are common complaints. And when the turbocharged engine needs attention, you'll quickly find out how expensive luxury maintenance can be. Meanwhile, the competition isn't sleeping. An Audi Q3 gives you tighter handling in a genuinely upscale cabin. A BMW X1 feels sharper and more premium in the details. And a Mercedes GLA, it delivers the badge appeal Cadillac is chasing, but with interiors that actually feel worth the price. The XT4 isn't a terrible SUV. It's just one that asks for a luxury paycheck while delivering a mid-range experience. If you're buying the badge alone, maybe it works. But if you're buying for the full luxury package, you'll find better, longer-lasting satisfaction elsewhere. And if Cadillac's entry-level luxury left you disappointed, wait till you see the SUV that charges champagne prices for what's basically a dressed-up Ford. Number 8. Lincoln Nautilus, $30,000 depreciation, and just a fancy Ford. It's a Ford Edge that puts on a tuxedo and hoped nobody would notice. Unfortunately, people did notice, and they weren't impressed. In a luxury SUV market that's been growing, Nautilus sales have still dropped 23%. That's like showing up late to a party and still managing to spill your drink. It's basically a Ford Edge with some chrome, softer leather, and a badge that's supposed to mean luxury. The problem is, when you drive it, you can still feel the Ford DNA in every control, button, and panel. The difference in price? Around $15,000. With that money, you could take the family on a decent vacation, twice, instead of paying extra for a fancier nameplate. Depreciation is just as painful. After 3 years, the Nautilus keeps only about 46% of its value, meaning you're looking at a $30,000 chunk of cash just gone. And unlike some European brands where you at least get the prestige, here you're just holding the keys to a fancier Ford. Then there's reliability. Owners report issues with the infotainment freezing up, electrical gremlins that seem to appear out of nowhere, and power equipment that decides on its vacation. Lincoln's warranty will help for a while, but after that, it's your wallet versus the repair shop. Spoiler, the shop wins. The saddest part? The same money you could be in something like a BMW X3, Mercedes GLC, or Lexus RX. Vehicles that not only carry more brand weight, but also give you sharper performance, better tech, and more genuine luxury feel. And if paying champagne prices for soda wasn't bad enough, the next vehicle shows what happens when a truck tries to play with the big boys and gets crushed. Number 7. Nissan Titan. 81% sales collapse and $30,000 value loss. A full-size pickup that's been trying to crash the American truck party for years, but nobody's opening the door. Sales have dropped a jaw-dropping 81% since 2017. In the truck world, that's basically extinction level. Here's the big problem. The Titan doesn't really beat Ford, Chevy, Ram, or Toyota in anything. The F-150 has more configurations, Ram has the best ride, Chevy's got work truck loyalty, and Toyota's Tundra has bulletproof reliability. The Titan? It's just there. Decent towing, decent power, but nothing that makes a buyer say, "Yep, this is the one." Then there's the value hit. After 3 years, the Titan holds only about 45% of its value, meaning you're eating roughly a $30,000 loss. Trucks usually hold their value better than cars, but this one's falling like a sedan. Reliability doesn't help its case. Drivetrain issues? Check. Electronic gremlins? Check. Braking components that wear faster than expected? Also check. And unlike Ford or Toyota, there's not a massive dealer network with easy parts availability, so repairs can be more of a hassle. The truth is, when people shop for full-size trucks, brand loyalty runs deep. Buyers want proven performance, aftermarket support, and a name that means something on the job site. The Titan just doesn't have that legacy, and Nissan hasn't done enough to carve out a niche. If you're spending this kind of money, you could be in a Ford F-150 with endless configurations and tech, a Ram 1500 with the smoothest ride in the game, or a Toyota Tundra that'll still be running strong in 15 years. But if you think the Titan sales collapse is brutal, wait until you see the sedan that lost 83% of its buyers and nearly $30,000 in value. Number 6. Volkswagen Arteon. The $50,000 sedan stuck in no man's land. A car that looked like a winner but wound up in the what went wrong folder. When it launched, Volkswagen sold it as a premium sedan. Sleek fastback styling, upscale details, and a price tag to match. But the luxury crowd didn't bite. Since its debut, sales have crashed 83%, and last quarter Volkswagen sold just 600 units. That's enough to fill a supermarket parking lot. Arteon asks for luxury money while wearing a mainstream badge. Buyers ready to drop $45,000 to $50,000 usually choose BMW, Mercedes, or Audi. VW loyalists? They're used to Passat pricings, not something that makes them spit out their coffee. The result? Stuck in no man's land, too pricey for VW fans, not fancy enough for luxury buyers. That awkward positioning kills resale value. After 3 years, the Arteon holds only 38% of its value, which means owners watch around $30,000 evaporate. That's the kind of cash you could put toward a true luxury car that actually holds value. And it's not just depreciation. Owners report water pump failures, sunroof leaks, and electrical glitches. Not total deal breakers, but enough to tarnish that premium pitch. Now, the RTN isn't without charm. It's one of the best looking sedans out there, with clean lines that actually turn heads. The hatchback trunk is surprisingly practical. The ride is smooth and comfort is solid. But here's the truth. Arteon's biggest flaw isn't what it's doing wrong, it's what it fails to be. It's not affordable enough to beat the mainstream sedans, and it's not prestigious enough to pull buyers from luxury showrooms. An 83% collapse is brutal, yet the next car is proof that staying stuck in the past is even worse. Number 5. Infiniti Q50, a luxury sedan stuck in 2014. A car that feels like it's been frozen in time, and not in a nostalgic classic way. Back when it launched, the Q50 could hang with the best, but more than a decade later, the competition has evolved, and the Q50 hasn't. The bones are the same, the tech is the same, and sales down a painful 63% since 2021. Rivals like the BMW 3 Series and Lexus IS have been steadily upping their game. Sharper handling, cutting-edge safety, sleek interiors. Meanwhile, the Q50 still forces you to deal with an infotainment system that uses 2 separate screens running 2 different operating systems. It's clunky, outdated, and feels like something a rental car company would have ditched years ago. The financial hit isn't pretty either. After just 3 years, the Q50 hangs on to only 42% of its original value. That's about a $31,000 loss on a new purchase. And a Lexus IS or BMW would probably hold value better while giving you a fresher, more refined drive. Reliability? Mixed bag. The twin-turbo V6 packs serious power, but owners have reported steering issues, electrical glitches, and pricey repairs. Plus, Infiniti's smaller dealer network means getting service can be more of a headache compared to German or Japanese rivals. To be fair, the Q50 isn't without charm. Performance is still solid, and the seats remain among the most comfortable in the segment, but those bright spots can't hide the fact that the car feels a decade out of date. The Q50 proves that standing still in a fast-moving segment is a slow death. Yet the next car shows what happens when you keep selling a relic from the past. Number 4. Chrysler 300, 73% sales crash and a 60% value wipeout. A car that's been around so long, it practically is eligible for senior citizen discounts. Sales have crashed 73% since 2015, and it's not hard to see why this thing rides on a platform from the early 2000s. In car years, that's prehistoric. It still has that big, imposing grille and long, low stance that turns heads in a retro muscle meets luxury kind of way. But open the doors and the nostalgia disappears fast. The tech feels like it belongs in an old rental car. Safety features lag behind the competition, and nothing about it screams 2025 ready. Then comes the financial hit. Drive one off the lot and 3 years later, you're staring at a 60% drop in value, roughly $30,000 gone. And that's before the repair bills start stacking up. Reliability? Not its strong suit. Owners report electrical gremlins, transmission problems, and suspension parts that wear out too quickly. Repairs aren't cheap, and with Chrysler's tiny lineup, finding a dealer can be less convenient than with bigger brands. Meanwhile, rivals make the 300 look ancient. The Toyota Avalon offers a smoother ride, bulletproof reliability, and better tech. The Kia Stinger brings sharp handling, modern design, and features that 300 can't match. The Chrysler 300 isn't all bad. If you want that old-school American sedan feel, with a big V6 or even a Hemi V8, it still delivers. But for most buyers, nostalgia isn't enough to justify paying new car prices for something that hasn't truly evolved in over a decade. But as outdated as the Chrysler 300 is, at least it owns what it is, a big old-school sedan. Our next pick? It's pretending to be something it's not, and charging you luxury money for the act. Number 3. Infiniti QX60, Nissan in disguise with a 58% value crash. A luxury SUV that's really just a Nissan Pathfinder in nicer shoes. Infiniti gave it a redesign, hoping for a sales boost, but instead sales dropped 19%. That's like repainting a house with a bad foundation. It looks fresh for a moment, but the problems don't go away. Park a QX60 and a Pathfinder side by side, and unless you're reading the badge, you'd struggle to tell them apart. Same shape, same platform, And under the hood, same story. The changes? A bit more chrome, some trim upgrades, and a much bigger price tag. That luxury premium isn't small. You're paying thousands more for what's essentially a dressed-up Nissan. And even at that price, the cabin doesn't feel truly high-end. Hard plastics show up where soft leather should be, and while the infotainment is better than before, it still lags behind real luxury rivals. The financial hit is ugly. In just 3 years, the QX60 shed about 58% of its value, roughly $35,000 gone. And that's before you deal with the repair bills. The CVT transmission is notorious for early failures, often costing thousands to replace. Throw in electrical gremlins and infotainment glitches, and you're left with a vehicle that's expensive to buy and expensive to own. For the same money, you can get an Acura MDX with sportier handling, a Lexus RXL with bulletproof reliability, or a Genesis GV80 that actually feels premium inside and out. All three deliver that kind of ownership experience you expect from a luxury badge. It looks nice on the driveway, but underneath, it's still a Nissan in a fancier suit. And when it comes time to sell, that suit won't hide the hit your wallet takes. If the QX60 is a Nissan in disguise, the next one shows what happens when a luxury badge can't hide the flaws of a failing product. Number 2. Jaguar E-Pace. 85% sales nosedive and only 34% value left. The Jaguar E-Pace is a perfect case study in how a flashy new model can flop fast. Since launch, sales have nosedived 85%, with only about 300 units sold recently. That's not exclusivity, that's the market saying, no thanks. On paper, it looks like a winner, an entry-level luxury crossover from a prestigious British brand. In reality, entry-level meant big compromises, mediocre performance, cramped interior, and refinement that lagged behind rivals. Add an asking price that overshot the competition, and the shine faded fast. The real kicker? Depreciation. After 3 years, the E-Pace hangs on to only 34% of its value, a brutal $32,000 hit on a $45,000 plus SUV. That's the kind of number that makes owners wince and used car shoppers circle like vultures. And then there's reliability or lack of it. Jaguar's long-standing electrical gremlins are alive and well here, with fault rates 5 times the industry average. Throw in gearbox troubles and occasional drivability issues, and ownership can become an expensive patience test. Meanwhile, competitors are eating its lunch. BMW X1 drives sharper, has more room, and keeps its value better. Mercedes GLA nails style and cutting-edge tech. Audi Q3 blends quality, performance, and refinement in a way the E-Pace can't match. To be fair, the E-Pace isn't terrible. It's stylish, rides comfortably, and that leaping cat badge still turns heads. But prestige alone can't save a product that's outperformed, outpriced, and outlasted by nearly every rival in its segment. In the crowded luxury crossover market, you can't just look the part, you have to deliver. Massive losses, brutal reliability, and sales in freefall. Yet the number one spot goes to a car that makes even the E-Pace look like a safer bet. Number 1. Maserati Ghibli. $100,000 mistake with a 68% value collapse. The Italian sedan that proves you can spend 6 figures and still end up with buyer's remorse. On paper, it's supposed to be a luxury and performance icon. In reality, it's a $100,000 shortcut to regret. Sales have collapsed, down 71% since 2019, and recently Maserati sold just over 100 units. That's not exclusive, that's nearly extinct. From the outside, the Ghibli has all the right curves, but step inside and you'll see a lot of parts lifted straight from Chrysler. Buttons, knobs, and even the infotainment system feels like they were ripped from a Dodge rental. This is 2025, but the tech feels a decade old. Maserati sells the fantasy of Italian passion, but what you're really buying is yesterday's hardware wrapped in leather. Then comes the financial gut punch. This thing loses 68% of its value in just 3 years, roughly a $60,000 hit, and that's before the repair bills start rolling in. Reliability? Electrical failures are 4 times the industry average. Add in engine issues, failing sensors, and those mysterious Italian gremlins that appear right after your warranty expires, and you've got a car that bleeds your wallet dry. The cruel truth? For the same money you could have bought a BMW M5, Audi RS7, or a Mercedes AMG E63. Cars that actually deliver performance, tech, and resale value. Those cars make you feel like you've got your money's worth. And the Ghibli just makes you feel like you paid for Maserati marketing department. The Ghibli is proof that style without substance has an expiration date. It's a car people buy with their hearts and end up selling with their tears. And there you have it, the biggest money pits on the road today. Before you even think about buying new, make sure you're not driving straight into one of these financial disasters. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next batch of cars that could drain your wallet. And if you're ready to protect yourself right now, click the video on your screen. It could save you thousands.